Yeah, sometimes it's hard when people on social media talk about how we're doing nothing, nothing's going on. It's like,
Really?
if this paper represents anything, it's,
The best idea is to ignore social media.
I think it is too.
It's really easy to be critical when
Yeah,
you just sit there and type stuff up.
There's one guy that I've
Oh, I can get
decided to quit paying much attention to.
smart.
Because it's always, what did I say to this guy? I said, is there anything positive at all? Can you think of one positive thing in town? Because you're against everything, except for what he.
Did he have any, did he have something?
No. No, he did not.
I don't want to carry him back to the.
I'll take it if you want to give it.
Okay, it's 11:06. We'll call this meeting to order. First thing on the agenda is the consent agenda for our meeting notes from August 24th of 2023. I'll make a motion we accept them as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any other further discussion? All those in favor shall signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. Okay, next thing is the financial stuff. It continues to grow. So we now have, we have the TIF districts are all in one kind of grouping, and then Lexington Village, which would be the residential TIF, is in a separate section. We've also added a non-TIF district fund. We also have a general fund. So let me try to explain all of them. The non-TIF, well, we have the, what's it called? The revolving fund that's through CEDA, through the city government. That'll be things like sidewalks, facades, and key building program. So it's all stuff where we're kind of dealing with people's private property, but we're encouraging people to do something with that. The other one will be kind of a general fund, which will be interest and basically interest in the land rental we're getting at Chase and Davis. That'll be a whole separate thing. And again, that allows us in some cases not to use taxpayer dollars, direct taxpayer dollars, to fund something that we think it needs to be done to, as say, a lot of things we do are sometimes to encourage a business to things such as putting fire escapes in for some of the downtown businesses to help them to get a second floor that could become a secondary business. So that's where that stuff's at. So those things will start to be added to this list starting probably next month. But I did not put those two. They didn't change. I didn't put them in the packet. But the rest of the stuff is kind of the same. The trick of this thing is going to be we're going to be jockeying money that comes into the checkbooks. We'll go to these different funds. We still have to provide what it was spent on. So we need to have a total from all these different things to say, okay, this was money for quality of life or economic development, and have to come up with a total from all the various different funds and how that did that. The residential thing will be different because we're not going to ever take a share of their stuff to put money into those things. I'm going to guess that, right now sometimes we divvy up a percentage for each of the TIF districts. I'm going to guess it would probably do that with just the TIF districts and keep the revolving fund and the general fund out of that calculation, just because then you're going to start commingling, giving money to taxpayer dollars to something else, and et cetera, et cetera. So anyway, we will have Baker Tilly with us next month to kind of give us the annual review they do, and that there's a new state law requiring that starting in 2025 that we provide a budget, which we already do. So we're actually ahead of the game, but apparently most TIF districts are not. So we work kind of on a different system. Okay, so basically all the financial stuff, Nothing's changed on the budget stuff, so I didn't provide that in the packet just to save another tree, make Perry sleep better. All right, I'll make a motion to accept the financial information, which is the financial report for the TIF districts, financial report for the Lexington Village, the non-TIF, and the budget. Is there a second?
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on any of this stuff? It keeps getting more and more pages, so if anybody can figure it out, let me know. All right. All those in favor signify by sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. All right, now we get into meat and potatoes. Next is Resolution 2023-339. Guess this is new business. We've got two here from F&K Construction. These are the guys that are doing all the infrastructure work at Lexington Village. And Resolution 2023-339 is the amount of $485,837.40 for F&K. For the Lexington, it will come out of the Lexington Village Construction Fund. I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-339. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. They want you to get your mic down. Every meeting they tell me, get close to your mic. All right. Any further discussion on that or questions?
Mike, this is just the bond payment.
Yes, yes. Well, it's the construction bond.
Okay.
So it is, there's both of these, they're kind of strange because there are two different amounts. They're both for that. I mean, Dwayne, you want to give any more detail of what?
It's just, those are the monthly, we're getting monthly statements from them for the work completed. And so those are, and we were 1 month behind actually with what we did. So this will get us caught up. We'll have another statement now at the end of this month so that we'll continue on. But basically you're just providing approval that those bond payments be made to F&K for the work that's been completed. And that would be, because I think last month, was there a change order on that bill for like 5,000? Didn't you guys approved like 200 and some thousand?
We've had zero problems out there, to my knowledge. We meet monthly, and they come, and the ready people come to make sure they're submitting. They have drone shots and pictures, percentage updates. We've had one change order for $5,800. It was a Comcast line that was unknown that had to be moved. But we're very happy with working with them, and these are just their submissions for payment. Since there's a bond, it has to be approved through you.
We've got them broken down into the construction bond, interest, and debt service, and there's like 3 or 4 accounts that are in there. Okay. Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-39 signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Moving now to 2023-340. That is basically the same stuff in the amount of $457,242.60. And it's also from the same construction bond fund. I'll make a motion we accept Resolution 2023-340. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of Resolution 2023-340 signify by sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes.
And I'll tell you guys, same thing I told Mike, this is kind of just a boilerplate resolution that we'll just go through every month. And the only thing I'll be changing is just the invoice numbers and the payment numbers. It'll all stay the same.
A lot of money.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Moving a lot of dirt. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Okay, Resolution 2023-341 is from Baker Tilly. And in your packet, you'll see that they have basically a couple bills here. Biggest one's for $10,927.30, and that's their services when they pull all the stuff together, the TIF neutralization, the preparation of the forms, and the stuff like that. And then they also get information ready, a list of people for us to notify. We then notify them, so that's some of the things they do there. And then they had also another charge for $500 for their services, the continuing disclosure for reporting for the end of the year, December 31st. So I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-341 in the amount of $11,427.30. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. The motion passes. All right. Now we get into bill stuff here. Resolution 2023-344, and this is the Cass County Title Company. This will be the first thing we've done with this new different spread of programs, because this is from the exterior improvement program. So as of next month, you'll see on that report that this will come out of that
Could be the
set
second
aside
one.
money.
I think we did the nest through this program. They just haven't submitted any invoice.
Well, that's interesting. Okay, yeah, okay, so I've not seen a bank statement yet that reflects them. I'm kind of setting these up as I get them, but yeah, so I've not seen that bill from the Nest yet, so.
So Cass County Title, I sent a lot of information on them, on the application, the summary, a resolution. Essentially, long story short, Jeff Todd, the younger Jeff Todd, who is a vice president at Cass County Title, purchased the building from Brian Morrill. He then rents it to Cass County Title, which is where he works. I sent that information in. Long story short, since he purchased it, he has put over $50,000 into the interior. If you've been in there for a closing or anything, it looks really nice. That's not part of these numbers. They've also done some roof work, not part of these numbers. The purchase price is not part of these numbers. Essentially, all we're looking at is they're looking to do $16,629 of some exterior work to make it look better. The program allows for 15%, so $2,494.35 is the request. And, I think that business gets a lot of newcomers in there, gets a lot of out-of-towners, a lot of purchases get done through there. And it's just a good impression of keeping the property look nice. And they've done a lot inside, and now we're looking to do some outside work. So that's the request.
I'll have to say, when we first did MSRP with Erin, and she talked about the residual people, other people will start to improve things from that, I didn't believe you. I stand corrected for the record. Both the Nest and this, I think, are situations where when things get fixed up around you, you start thinking, gee, how do we look? And then I said, so, it's nice to get some new blood down there at Cass County Title. And nice to see that they're, fixing up the property. There were pictures in there. They've got some awnings they're doing and some other stuff, some siding and things. So it's quite a heavy packet. I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-344 in the amount of $2,494.35, which is our 15%. It'll come out of the new revolving fund.
Yeah, it's
I keep forgetting what it's called.
City Revolving Loan Fund at number 406.
Yeah,
As long as Dwayne knows where that is.
City Revolving Loan Fund. All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by sign of aye. 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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, next is Resolution 2020, wait a minute, 344. Okay, 2023-345, Crossroads Engineering. Bill?
Crossroads is our engineer for Riverside, the event center project. There's been some changes, there are issues that have come up that we're working around, that require an engineer to sign off. With that, there's been a lot more hourly time needed than they thought. Their original contract that you approved for the construction administration line item had $5,000. They would like that bumped to $8,000 because they know we've already burned through the $5,000. There's been a lot of obstructions underground that we knew about, but we didn't know the severity of what we're running into with walls and foundations and unknown water lines and all this other stuff. The soil's got some issues. So we have needed Crossroads dearly for their work. So my request is to amend. We are, let me see here,
2022-339.
the 3,000 additional would go into construction admin. This is back to Resolution 2022-339 that you approved at the end of last year. So my request is that we can bump that contract up so we know it's coming, so when it's time to pay them, we have.
All right, I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-345 in the amount of an additional $3,000, amending it to the original resolution of 2022-339. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion?
Is this going to be the last time they come back to us for more money?
Crossroads?
Yeah.
Crossroads, I would assume, yes. As issues arise and build down there, I would say there'll be another request
So
for the parking lot, not
that
admin.
was owned by LMU.
Yes, we have a resolution, that's something I'm working with on the side. We have a resolution from RDC to the utilities for $130,000 back in early 2022 that they have not invoiced. It was basically a goodwill for, you did all this demolition down there, you created a redevelopment area, you spent a lot, millions and millions of dollars. So remember, if we looked at the parcel and we looked at the price per parcel, and we were going to pay them $130. But in that resolution, there's some language about leaving a buildable site. So we're looking for language clarification of buildable sites and other things. So I'm working with them, or I will be working with them to see what can be done with the 130 that you have not dispersed to them yet.
That hasn't been.
Has not been paid, no. So, and it's broken out of 40,000 for the water plant site and 90,000 for the power plant, the coal plant.
The reason I asked is because any of the properties, and especially commercial-wise, you can go back 50 years, 60 years and go after the insurance company for what is going on with that property, the dirt, everything, and hold them accountable to this day. That's why I'm asking, what is the situation with LMU?
There's no
I
contamination
see LMU knew
issues,
what was
no.
going on, but it was
No,
the property.
The one that, the issue that nobody knew about, where the event center is going, there was a structure underneath that, under the road. And that wasn't the utilities, they wouldn't have known that. I mean, nobody knew that. So, they get these 5-foot thick walls down there and rebar popping out everywhere. It's just been a mess. That's where the engineers have been helpful of redesigning the utilities around most of it. But there are some things they've had to lease some very high-powered hydraulic machines to knock these walls out of there. So everything's on the table. There's no contamination issues. There's no of that. It's just some underground stuff.
And this one's kind of weird because, like we didn't, Riverside Park didn't have any surveying. I think, Aaron can correct me, I think at this property, LMU didn't really own it. The city didn't own it, it was just assumed.
Nobody owned it,
And
which was
so,
odd.
when they gave it to us, they didn't really own it to give it to us.
It didn't, really wasn't, so nobody's ever owned this.
Well,
It's not been it was never deeded to anyone.
Seems like
So
there's a lot of
recently.
stuff in this town like that.
Riverside, all
Yeah.
the way to the coal plant, none of that was deeded over the years. It's just been recently, in the last few years, that area's been deeded.
and for the most part, it hadn't been surveyed ever either. So I mean, there was no, when they went to do even grants at Riverside, it's like they couldn't find a survey. So and we waited, God, 18 months or something like that to get them to survey that down there. So, and as I understand it, it's harder to survey because you got a river that's it's not a straight bank. You've got to have to.
But from memory, you weren't paying utilities for the land. We used the land mass as a calculation for a number, but it was more of a payment in good faith for everything they were doing.
Yeah.
Because if not, we'd still be looking at these overhead conveyors over the river and this mess down there. So I think that's why you paid it, if I look back at the minutes.
Yeah, it was over budgeted for demo,
Yeah.
and so they were looking for help. And in doing that, we said, if we help you with this, would you in turn turn over the land for $0 to us to
Yeah.
redevelop?
Essentially, yes.
They pulled the pin and handed it to us.
What's scary to me though is if we redevelop that, we don't even know what's under that land.
I don't.
You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah,
we may have nothing.
that's about everywhere in town.
Yeah.
Like, when we get to the farmer's market topic, I'm pretty darn sure there's stuff under there, similar to construction demo, put it underground, and the next guy can deal with it. Yes.
And I know that on this property, they talked about looking for some place to put some piers in. They had to go down 10 feet and they found some limestone finally, but,
Luckily, because the soil wasn't buildable. So, yeah, they found limestone 10 feet under, they're going to put
But they got
the
the
piers
15
into
foot
limestone.
or
Yeah.
pier in.
It's been something.
All right, any further discussion, questions? If not, all those in favor of Resolution 2023-345 signify by a sign of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay. The next one's is kind of a nice thing to be able to talk about. If you watch social media, lots of folks think we didn't have anything going on with the developer. Stuff's been going on for a long time, just was needed to get done, the legal stuff and that kind of stuff. I'll let Bill tell you more details, but it's finally come to the finish line.
Yeah, it's been a lot of time and a lot of hush-hush, can't say whatever. The agreement you have in front of you is an installment purchase and economic development agreement for a developer for Lexington Village. The developer of recommendation and on the agreement would be Shepler Construction Company. We've worked with them post RFP because nobody bid on it. So we've been able to deal with people directly, and Shepler is the one we've been dealing mainly with. Trying to work through how the timing works, how do we deed the properties to them, and who pays insurance, and who does this, and what are the terms, and we want to make sure that third-party builders are allowed. So if somebody else, if Suzanne wants to build a house and she wants to use Perry, that's allowed under this agreement. Then the shift of the requirements shift to Perry at that point of what he can put there. So that's kind of where we're at. It isn't a PUD, so one of your exhibits will have a PUD agreement. Our plan with Shepler would be to understand the models that they want to put there, 4 or 5 different options. We would take those to the Architectural Review Committee within the PUD and get those approved up front. So as long as he builds any of those 4 or 5, it doesn't have to go through a process each and every time. What that does not address is a custom build. So you hire Perry, and you want a custom build, that's still going to have to go in front of the ARC committee, because we don't know what it is that you want to build. And we don't make sure it fits down there. It's not some $3 million home when everything else is $275,000, $300,000. So that's in there. How the title insurance works and how the completion times work, it's very lengthy. This was prepared by Dennis Otten with Bose McKinney. If you recall, you paid for it through the recommendation of Mr. Lehman that it really wasn't in his lane to do. So we've copied Kelly on every submission, every amendment, everything. So I've heard of nothing, no issues. The term, we sign it now. The hope is that you approve it, you give Mike the authority to sign it, I get Shepler to sign it. The time frame doesn't kick in until we get the substantial completion notification from F&K. It's not fair to put Shepler on the clock and the infrastructure's not done. So that's in the agreement also. That's about it.
I will say, this is, to me, I think this is, it's an interesting experiment on our part, because up till now, in my lifetime, you normally have somebody coming out of Chicago or Indianapolis or someplace to do stuff like this. One of the things that we wanted to have happen was that other builders could come into this and do this. The other thing is that we have, like in the case of the school, they had 22 teachers that were commuting into Logansport. Couldn't find housing. And then within 2 or 3 years, they lost 17 of those 22 commuters that went to work in the schools where they lived. So this gives the opportunity, Shepler seems to be up for it, also the fact that they can provide customization and then go to Aaron and make sure it matches the zoning. But if you had, say we've got some senior citizens that want just a 2-bedroom, which maybe is not the normal thing you want to have, but they may want to come in and do something. Or these a brand new teacher, maybe doesn't want to have a 3-bedroom, whatever, so we can have some flexibility in this area to do some things as long as it matches the stuff on the zoning and all those things. But anyway, I think this is a neat opportunity for us to see, can the city of Logansport do this on their own? Or do we go back to saying we need to get guys in from Chicago to do stuff like this? And I think we tried to cover every possibility to make it so that other builders can be involved, and and hopefully, as I say, of all the timing, you've got mortgage rates at the highest they've been in forever. But the idea, hopefully, then is that you move some people out of the current housing, they come into here. Now you have room for some people to have in their old houses. So it really helps to, I think you probably agree there's just not tons of available housing, like there's been in some times past. So anyway, I'm glad that we've done this. I thank Bill, because Bill has been chasing this down and said we had some trying to who's the best attorney to do things, and it was taking forever to get things done. So, it's as long as the dirt's being pushed around, it's not a major deal. I think they plan to put in some kind of a show home there. But, the timing, every once in a while it's going to be done. I think they're pushing, it's going to be hard to get something in there this fall. Having case done.
He is ahead of schedule. I think that what would stop Shepler this year of a model home was the construction mess in people walking through and kind of making your place look not the best. But they do have what they've been teeing up, so when we get to this point, they have a marketing plan, websites, price points, models, so people, because we knew once we announced that people were going to start calling and say, hey, how much? What do you get for 1,800 square foot? What's that? So we had to get that going in the background. So once this is out, I can now transfer the people who have been calling me, having detailed questions to them, and they take this project over. we've also made it to where RDC still owns the property. We're not saying, here's 17 acres, good luck. You guys still have control. If something doesn't go right, you haven't deeded anything over until they have a deal and it's in the agreement. It's deeded over and they have 30 days to do construction, start construction, all that. You're not relinquishing any of your land until there's a deal.
And as a reminder, this is kind of unique because normally a developer comes in and they start developing these 4 houses that are all together. We have the ability that all the infrastructure is going to be done. So you're just basically going to be building houses. So if someone's to build one over here and build one over here, even though in a big project, where they're going to start building houses before they're sold, they can actually, people can pick their spot and they can actually put the building where it's at, which is unique. So we have all the best of all the worlds, I think, to where we can be the most flexible. Other than, say, is TIF. Originally, I started out thinking, yeah, we want to build the biggest house as possible so we get the most TIF money back. But, I've realized that talking to people, there's a lot of different people that have a lot of different needs and wants and desires. And so that, that is, we are obliged to our taxpayers. So we need to really kind of, take that as saying, okay, we can, as long as we have the right look for the neighborhood, we can do all kinds of things for this stuff. So anyway. So in this case, we need to have you guys give me permission to sign the documents. So I'll make a motion that the RDC gives me permission to act in its behalf in signing the various documents that we have here, the purchase economic development agreement, and any other things that come in front of it. This is kind of a two-part thing. Somewhere down the road, we have to also decide, and I don't know if it's here or someplace else we'll talk about it, but we're getting more and more things like in this project here, also the thing downtown where we own the land and there's issues. In this case here, we're gonna own, as Bill said, we're gonna still own all this property. Well, the weeds are gonna start growing up there. So then we need to, and we're trying to find out from Baker Tilly, they don't want you to usually do maintenance, but now we're in the residential TIF district business. I don't know how you don't take care of knocking down the weeds or whatever and cutting the grass and so on and so forth. So there are some things that we keep running into that are, we have to somehow give me permission to act on behalf of this board in between meetings just because stuff happens and, you got a code enforcement officer saying, everything needs done. I go, hold on, we got to wait till we have our meeting so we can discuss this. So anyway, this one today, we just have permission for me to act on our behalf on all the signing the documents. So I'll make a motion to request that I'm allowed to stand in place of the board to sign all documents with the Lexington Village project. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion or questions?
The third party, I'm not understanding. I'm not seeing where Shepler has, it's not making sense to me.
They're the master developer. If a request comes from a third-party builder, just use an example to make it simple, you then will comply with this agreement too.
So I go to Shepler or do I go to you?
Shepler is our master developer. So when I say go to him, well, you're going to make sure Erin's cool with it in her ARC committee. That's the
I'm going to go see her.
That's the biggest watchdog, is making sure that you put something out there that conforms with the PUD.
Right.
Shepler's not going to have the ability to deny his request.
Shepler their role would be right now, I'm acting as a construction manager at the event center. Jacob's acting as a construction manager over at Lexington Village. We are not good at that. I shouldn't say that about Jacob. Maybe he's gone to some schools I'm not aware of. But right now, it's kind of relying on other people. This would be our reliance on Shepler to oversee what goes on up there. So even though you're the builder, I'm still going to lean on Shepler to make sure whatever you're doing is proper and timely. Because you have you have requirements in here that together I'm going to look over and he's going to look over, and we got to make sure it gets done right. I'm not saying you wouldn't, but it could be various people. It could be, you could hire a guy out of Muncie that's qualified, but I don't know anything about their background.
TK Homes could come in,
Yeah.
or, I mean, there's all kind of groups that could come in as third party. And the idea is that Shepherd will be the general in the fact to make sure that they decide they're going to put fly paper on instead of drywall, is to say, hey, hold on a second, that we don't want to have a possibility of getting a bad reputation for, oh, you remember when they built all those junky homes up there? Well, they're going to be overseeing that stuff to make sure that.
So they're gonna manage, and this is what I'm getting to. That's not gonna work. I'm not gonna have Shepherd come in and manage me when I know more than his guys does. And that'd be a back and forth deal, and that's what you're gonna have. That's why I'm asking you where this third party's coming in at. What is Shepherd's actual job? If he's gonna be managing every job site plus his own, I think that needs to be put out there, because he's not gonna come on my job site.
He's going to.
You see what I'm saying? I mean, that's
He's going to
not
have to come
gonna.
onto your job site.
Huh?
We are making them responsible to oversee that what's being done there. I mean, you may know more than his people do, but not everybody knows more than his people do.
No, I
So-
understand that, but this is what you're gonna get from builders. This is what I'm telling, local builders, because there's gonna be guys up there I know that wanna build, because we all talk, and we all knew that Shepherd was getting it, but it's just kinda like, what is their job?
They are the construction manager of that project.
Okay.
So.
It's almost like in some of these big projects, like where you have subcontractors. Basically, you're like a subcontractor for them, but, I mean, so they, say, if they see you're putting on, I don't know what, I mean, say, they can question that, and they also have to make sure that you're, even though you're going to go to Aaron and say,
Well, I
here's
can,
this
and I
stuff.
understand that, it's
Yeah.
just the job site, when you get on the job site, somebody's gonna be coming on that job site and managing that job site instead of you being the one that makes it happen.
Somebody has to manage it, and I'm not qualified,
Oh,
period. I know your guys know more than me, so that's where we're putting our trust into.
I think that just needs to be clarified and put out
It's,
there
it's in there.
for that
It's
third.
listed in here how that works, but it's very much, I can certainly kind of like with the building department here in the city, they start to know which contractors they can kind of say, yeah, they know what they're doing, they're going to do this thing. And I think that's going to happen here too, that, I mean, will Shepherd be there every day, looking over your shoulder? No, I don't think so. But, if they get somebody in that said, I'm going to build my own house, I've never done it before, but I'm going to build one, we can't allow that, I mean, because of the, years ago, there was a thing called the Hopper Edition, and there was some stuff that they had some drainage they're supposed to do in this thing, and they put a pipe in there and put dirt on both ends of it, and we approved it, the city approved it and said, okay, that's great, but there really wasn't a drainage system, it was just a pipe, that had dirt on each side. And we want to avoid that. I mean, these are those things you go, we better do something about that. So to make sure that it's going to be Shepherd's responsibility and held liable if things are done that are unsafe. Had some discussions with them about simple things like this, that they had one of their kids of John Smith's, or Terry Smith's, one of the kids was building something in Indianapolis, and they weren't going to put like hurricane clips on, which is a small item, but they've seen some cases down there where, they're watching every penny. Well, in this case, that's something that if you had a big windstorm, you could lose your roof, but you could not lose your roof if you'd done this thing. So that we're hoping that they're going to provide some of that kind of guidance and oversight, and my suspicion is in the realities of the world, if you are to them, and they say, hey, Perry's got his act together, or Bob's got his act together, or whatever, they're not going to be micromanaging you because they don't have the time to do that. They have their hands full. I mean, we hope, we don't know, is one house going to be built the first year, or 10, or 50, or, you just don't know. So anyway, we've tried to cover those things in here, trying to guess is how it works. And it was very important for us to make sure that we didn't shut out local contractors that wanted to build up there. We didn't want to be, it's Shepherd, if we'd done, the normal master developer, they would actually, they would build all the houses, and they would even probably build houses that weren't even requested, so they would build them, then they could sell them after they get built. In this case here, everything will be sold before that happens. We will then release the land. The bank's going to insist that they got that collateral, that land. So at the time that the bank gets involved with your clients, then the RDC will turn that land over to them so that they get that asset available then or whatever. So, anyway.
And sure, it's not always going to be the way you'd want it, but if you're a third-party builder, you're getting free land and you're getting new infrastructure, and so you're getting things too that you wouldn't normally get on a normal deal. It's not normal just to go get free land and brand new infrastructure. So that's part of this deal for a third-party developer is you're getting some things too.
Yeah, but it'd be like somebody coming in and making sure you're doing your job correctly.
Happens every day. 24 board members that do that.
Well, you understand.
I understand what you're saying, but you got to have some structure.
You gotta have a structure, yeah, you gotta have somebody.
We can't just-
I got a feeling that I like this, and I think we really need to be prepared because I think that there's going to be builders want to come in, especially when that battery factory opens up in Kokomo. And I think people are going to build a house over here for $180,000 and drive to Kokomo in 30 minutes.
Yeah, we're looking to put an informational venue working with Dave McClure, who's second in charge over there at Stellantis, and about the Korean culture and what to expect in cities that surround Kokomo, and question and answers for the public. So you're right, I think they're going to live in several different areas, and if they can find cheaper options 30 minutes away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of opportunities. We also have that Make My Move program, which is where you're contacting, I think it's like 38% of college students now are working from their homes. And this gives the opportunity for those people to come in and also with this we put this thing that could be customized, so then they could actually come into their community, build a house here, they get an incentive from us and the state to come into Indiana and be here. So we tried to preload the gun with as much ammunition as we could to be as flexible as we can. And we'll see it. This is an experiment. I mean, as I say, the whole Chase Davis thing right now, most people's thought we'll go back to some kind of master developer there because it's going to be a lot of land and a lot of roads and that kind of stuff that, usually the master developer would do all of that. This is unique in the fact that with the way the city has got this worked out, that the infrastructure is going to be there. All the cable, all the water, sewer, all that stuff's going to be done and not have to be required of the guy building the house to have to deal with that or, there's no, that stuff. And, and it's also good for the city because, it's as the tax base. Okay, so I guess all those in favor of allowing me to act on behalf of the board and all documents with Lexington Village signify with a sign of aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay.
Can I jump in one more thing before Aaron comes up?
Sure.
You'll notice in your minutes from last month, on page 4 and 5, we talked about the farmer's market. And we determined that today we would officially release that relationship with that developer. They want released, so,
Yeah.
and so as of now, we don't have an official developer for that area, so. I've run this past like Logan's Landing Board and others of, what would you like to see there? So now's the opportunity for people that have visions and ideas to let me know what they would like there, so we can move forward. But if you could officially, I wish I would have brought the name. His name's Rob Toll, but his company's company Rob Toll was working for is officially not the award winner of the RFP.
You understand what he's saying? Before we had the guy who's going to build apartments there, and they've now, we kept saying, what's the holdup, what's the holdup, what's the holdup? They finally gave him a deadline, and so he's finally said, we're out. So we now are starting back at zero as to what needs to happen on that spot. There's been some people, there should be a farmer's market there and stuff like that, so it's now open for discussion again as to what needs to happen. It sound like of all strangeness, that it was important for them to have that urban park as part of their apartment. It sounds like that's moving forward, but, potentially now we've lost the guy that wants to do the apartments, so.
It'd be more productive if people would reach out to me and let me know their thoughts, and then not social media. So whether it's
True.
myself or the mayor's office or Aaron, Logan's Landing, we've considered boutique hotels or apartments or stuff.
It's definitely got to build something, not a parking lot or a farmer's market. We got to build something. We got to stop
Don't
with
disagree.
all this and build somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, this is,
You interested?
we're never going to move forward in the
Yeah.
downtown area if we don't. We have to do something.
Maybe you do, Perry.
I'm looking at you, Mike.
Yeah, that's my strong suit. Okay,
That needs to be in the minutes, like an official vote, or?
do we,
To release them, I think, with what the minutes said last time, you were just going to say whether or not they were going to be released or not. I think within the minutes,
I think,
you've determined that you're releasing them. I mean, if you want to make a motion to officially release them, that's fine, and to move forward with things as they are, as determined.
would you prefer, would you want to,
Make a motion, we cover it all.
okay? I'll make a motion to release the company that Rob Tell is involved in. We think it starts with a W. Anyway, I'll make a motion, we release the company that was previously been selected to be the developer for that property, and put it back now where we're going back to open it up for new suggestions for use of that property. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. All right, now we've got something from Aaron.
Slide that microphone over. Thank you.
Yep.
Resolution 2023-342.
This one is for Patriot Park. The council has been willing to go into the land acquisition agreement with Redevelopment Commission to redevelop the site. This was one of the sites that the Parks Board had listed as a possible redevelopment site of their parks. And so this is just the acceptance of property. And this includes the basketball and the slide area. There is a section between the 3rd Street Bridge and like right there where there's some grass areas still that would still be owned by the city as part of right of way, but the area that could be developed is in this proposal. Questions on that?
I don't think so. That you'll find that in your packet, there, after this resolution, there's actually, the next item is appraisals we did, so if you want to see information about these parcels, the one she's got is the third one back in our packet, and it's called Patriot Park, and they've got some drawings there. Basically, it's this over on Front Street, is that what that is? And, it's that park, and it actually, I didn't realize there's actually some wooded land that's,
Yeah, they own
yeah,
more.
yeah, I didn't realize it was as big as it was. And we've had some interest in some folks on that property, or,
Yes, there's been some different developers looking in that area just because it's riverfront area, so.
okay. Okay, I'll make so basically, we're gonna be owner of more land.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-342 in the acquisition of the land known as Patriot Park, and the parcels are listed here. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any further discussion or questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying of aye. Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Now, this is like part two of this story. The next thing is the actual appraisals of the properties. We had agreed to have that done and pay for. And so just for information, those are the documents. I've sent these to you also in this package here. I guess I've got all of it, I think.
And then the appraisals are based off the land currently, so that's why they seem a little low, but.
Yeah, and they had like the first one at Jefferson, one person had 27,000, the second appraiser is at 85,000, which is quite a difference.
So how they do that is they look at the land existing, but they also take into consideration what it could be. I guess for each appraiser, they determine what that changes the price value on what's allowed in that district. So each of them knew exactly the same things, that housing was allowed and those type of things. It's just what they determined that would.
Yeah, and if
It's the average of the two that is typically what the requirement is for selling if in the RFP and those type of things.
if John Michael was here, I'll take his place here. He would say, what a shame it is we have to spend money to do appraisals, because the RDC versus the city, we can take a price for the land less than what this appraised for. We have total flexibility, but we still have to get two appraisals and pay two different appraisers. Waste that money. He would say, it's a sad use of money to have to get two appraisals for something that you basically are going to decide that oftentimes we end up giving the land to somebody for them to develop something. So I'll say that in John Michael's absence. Okay, so that is, those appraisals, there's no action there, that's just information for you in your, I think today you have just I don't know if I got all of it, maybe it's all in there. Yeah, I guess I gave you all, it's, okay. The original extent, I just had the cover page and the appraised value. You've got all these here now, and I've also sent them to you that's got the whole 80 pages of appraisal pictures and that kind of stuff. Okay, so then we'll move on to Resolution 2023-343, which is the deed, for deed preparation.
So of the three that you viewed for appraisals, next step after appraisals, is that we actually need it in our name to be able to do the RFPs, redevelopment's name to do RFPs. So the deed preparation, because there's multiple parcels on some of these, like Patriot Park has many, many different parcels. It was a little bit more than our normal deed fee, but it's $750 to do all three of those. And this would be Jefferson, Old Jefferson School, Patriot Park, and then the race Street one is just track 2.
Okay. So we're basically going to get deeded for all those properties. Yeah, okay.
You've already approved Jefferson, we just haven't on the deed yet, and then Patriot you just approved, and then race we had approved previously as well.
Okay.
I guess Race Street is really, Race Street isn't the track 2. Race Street is the small lots in front of track 3. So as we talked about earlier, there was a bunch that wasn't platted. We took care of all of that, went through all of that process, but because I guess, was so focused in on the part that wasn't platted, I think there's 10 platted lots to the very front of the coal plant, didn't get transferred, so that's what these would be.
Yeah. And all these properties have had some interest from some folks, so that's another good sign. Okay, so I'll make a motion to accept Resolution 2023-343 and the funding of these deeds in the amount of $750. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor signify by saying of aye. Aye. All those Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Before I go on to Chase and Davis, I know that you have a little bit later the list of
Yes.
property taxes. I would just say that those are existing, not on your list because those
Right, right.
aren't
And that was, I was gonna,
answered yet.
I was going to discuss that. I mean, I'm not exactly sure, I have not I've not done the form yet because so much of it has nothing to do with us. It's about nonprofits, this kind of stuff. But we're basically needing to make sure that all these parcels we have, that, right now, some of them may be considered to be taxable for property taxes. So because we're non-taxable in a wing of the city, we got to provide, go down and provide that. Now, so far, the ladies down in the assessor's office have said, hey, just do one form and then we'll attach it to this thing here. Well, we're going to have a constant flow. I assume this is not going to go away. Aaron's gotten really good at it. So I think we're going to have to, sometimes they're already, like the school is probably already listed as non-profit because it was a school before. I don't know. They didn't seem like they knew a lot about it either, but we're going to have to figure out what the process is. And to say, I look at this form, it's 3 or 4 pages long, and most of the questions, are not really pertain to us. So originally they said I can just go ahead and put C below and you'd have all those parcels listed. As Aaron said, this new one, that'll be additions to that. So I'm thinking that I will add another page to our spreadsheet that has what I would call a balance sheet, but the assets that we'll have to show, we'll show the properties. And then we will, like in the case of Lexington Village, at some point we will move it off that thing. So we'll have an ongoing list, an audit list of here's all the properties, parcels that we own. And then they say when Baker Tilly's here, this whole question of maintenance of these properties, they think TIFs aren't supposed to do maintenance. I don't know how we're going to get away with. Yeah, we're going to become the owner now. I can say, like on Front Street, right now the Parks Department takes care of that. Will they continue to do that? Do we have to pay them for that? It's going to get to be interesting. So, in most cases, though, the good news is that for Aaron to do some of this stuff, there are people out there that are showing some interest. Doesn't mean it's going to go through, but it is people that are interested in those
As
properties.
you know, it doesn't go fast, but.
Right, yeah. There'll be at least.
First step, we're at the first step.
Before something's moved off our books, so,
Well, yeah, we're gonna have to take care of it.
I know,
If we're owners,
right,
and that's it.
yeah.
I for one do not like to see properties that are, grass is 12 inches tall and no one's cutting anything.
Right. Well, we also don't want to be, called in front of the Board of Works because our properties are, because I think that's John Michaels. I think I'll vote for John Michaels since he's not here. But yeah, we don't, especially when people look up and go, oh, that's owned by
Yeah.
the city, basically, and then they're going to say, so we need to, and I say, hopefully when Baker Tilly says next month, we can get a clearer definition because, this is not a unique situation that a TIF would own these lands, but if they think we can't maintain them, I don't know how, it's weird, but.
Well, if we're gonna own them, we're gonna have to maintain them.
Correct. And does that mean that our friends at the Parks Department will help us on some of that stuff? I don't know, or whether we need to hire Denny, an outside contractor to maintain stuff. But we definitely, Lexington Village is going to need to have a lot of maintenance. All right. So, Chase Davis, we ready for that?
Yeah, so, there was some discussion with Chase and Davis about next steps now that you're on the property. I know it's going to be different than Lexington, but what we did with Lexington is after purchasing it, we went through a planning process to determine what type of uses and what type of things did we want to see happen there. It's been tweaked, but basically housing, median income, market rate is what fell into that plan, helped develop the regulations for that area and those types of things. So, I looked into what some cost estimates, I have 2 different companies that I looked into to kind of take us through that process. So this would be, there would be a stakeholders meeting, and then there would be a public meeting for feedback from the public as well. And then they do analysis, obviously, and then they'll prepare some renderings and visuals for people to understand how that would work in the space for the end of the project. We have one that was 75, I think.
79,500 is the
Yes, and then there was one that was good.
less, like 50,000, I think.
Yeah, and the other one was 50. They've done, both of these companies have done something similar to this in multiple communities in Indiana. So that's why they were the two companies that I had asked for information from. If you guys have someone else, that's great as well. We can get that information. But I guess instead of just sitting on the property not knowing if we're doing some commercial or if we're doing all single family, high-end homes or what have you, I would rather, instead of sitting on it for 5 years and then deciding, oh, we're just going to piecemeal it to random people and now we don't have access or different things happen, I would rather us have a general plan of steps moving forward, whether we section off a portion and keep it more of office commercial, and then we do more single family medium income on Davis. I just don't know how it's going to play out, but I'd rather get everybody, stakeholders, all the stakeholders involved, and the community just to understand how the space could be used and get feedback. That helps us in rezoning in the future. That helps us with obviously funding, grants, different things like that, as having a plan for the area. I'm not looking for you to say today which company you want to go with. You can also research them and see what other places they've done if you'd like. But just wanting to bring this as a possible next step with that property. And if you had any questions for me.
Which property are you talking about?
This is the Chase and Davis property that was just per the Chase and Davis, the 60 acres, yeah.
So basically, they can put together something that says, here's some potential uses. And obviously, you've got like Dr. Goris or Parker.
Yeah, so it
Yeah,
does make sense
it could be
to
some
do
light
that or
commercial
not.
down there if you want to have a little more light commercial, but then you probably over by, Davis Road, you're gonna might want to have,
And there,
housing and,
before it was purchased, we talked about like, okay, how would that work if you did, an acre or two for each lot? How many could you get out of that? Well, it depends how you run the road and how is that going to affect. And now that we have some documentations on wetlands and some geotech work and some of that stuff, that's going to help determine how that kind of works. That's why I just wanted to bring next steps for you guys to, I know you haven't had kind of this type of property you stepped in Lexington, but we had kind of done that stuff previously. I just don't want us to sit on it and we own it and annex it and then nothing happened with it, so.
for a developer, Aaron, are we gonna do things they're gonna do again? I mean, do we need to, are we?
No, so one of the things is both of these companies actually have other developers that they can always pair us up with as well. So one of the things that they do is when they go through this process is they try to see what people that they know would be interested in a project like this as well. So that's something of a benefit that if we did it ourselves, we wouldn't get. And then from there, the developer would actually detail the site. What the developer wants to know is what is our intent for the area? What are we trying to achieve? Obviously, that changes a little bit here and there. But in the general sense, is this something that I want to be part of because I see how it's going to impact whatever I want to develop there? Making sure that there's not something that's just plopped in there that's not going to meet up with that developer's project.
Do you have any feeling for, one is 79,000 and one's 50,000. Any feeling
Of
for
course,
what?
I kind of like one
Expensive.
that's more expensive, but Structure Point's great. They are more really into the engineering, where Kimley Horn is really more into the planning. So it's just kind of, they both have their expertise, but they both can provide good product.
Okay, where do you have, where can we see what they've developed?
Yeah, so if you just go to, you can Google their name, and they're on their website, they show different projects that they've done.
So what I'm seeing in the market, we have, most of our doctors don't live here in town. take anybody that gets into the six-figure. I mean, there's a lot of people that makes 100,000 in this town. A lot of people wouldn't think that, but there's a lot. But when you start getting into the 250 to $500,000 incomes, there's people here, they don't live here. The reason they don't live here is because we don't have housing for them. So to me, this chase, we have a lot of money at stake, and then we turn around and we're gonna start spending this kind of money on top of that. We really need to develop an area that, you know, goes after these kind of people, so they feel all warm and fuzzy. Some of these areas that I've seen, and this is why I was asking, can I look at these?
Yeah, and if you have
'Cause
someone
I will physically drive there and look at it. A lot of these areas, it's like that. And it could be 50 to 60 acres. I've seen houses of 200 and 300 acres, but they'll have dentist offices. They'll have everything so close that if you per se have a man that stays home and takes care of the house, or a woman that they literally just take the kids right down the street and they have their coffee and they have their food and they have everything is right available to them. That's how I see that
Yeah.
being out there.
Yeah, it's more of a village feel. It's not
Right.
it's more of like maybe you start out with some commercial on the first floor and one story apart, you know, the apartments above, and behind that then you have some townhouses, and behind that you have the larger homes and those type of things where some of those services are provided there. I mean, if we're looking for commercial, great, go that way. If you're only looking to split it for housing, that's a totally different look. So I think it just depends on what people are seeing for that area and what they can collect data of how to bring back enough money to be able to do the things. Because I think if you only do single family and you're looking at high income, who knows when those are going to be turned around. So infrastructure back to the back lot that they want, or those type of things may not make sense in the long run. So what can you do in building some capital there with maybe some of the kind of village feel services that those people would want in that area? So, and with having that, I call it a business park, it's not really, but that kind of business park feel just to the west of it, that could be brought over and it wouldn't be out of place. So, but that's kind of what they
Yeah,
go
place,
through.
but the problem is that's been empty forever
Yeah.
to the west.
Oh, yeah. So it will still.
So I mean, that doesn't work either, so we need to come up with
Yeah.
Right.
housing and commercial mix.
To your
Yeah,
point,
I think so too.
a while back, my son was looking at houses or land behind where I live, and George Stevenson owns all that Ottaway Point. Perry Gay at the same time was looking at trying to develop stuff for doctors down there. Now, I'm sure that's dead now, the hospital, but to your point, he was thinking that one of the barriers to getting doctors to live here was, as you say, so that this is something, again,
Housing and the quality of life, shopping, restaurants, housing. That's what it is.
we can get housing.
Which one comes first? You know, I mean,
Right. Well, yeah, and they all building each other. I mean, you know, the dollar will follow, you know, and if the stuff with the guys in the factory in Kokomo, I mean, there's just all kinds of, you know, as Bill mentioned, Dave McClure was talking about how they're bringing 300 Korean people to Kokomo, management staff, and there's no Korean restaurants or Korean food available. Then they went into like the schools. Are there any Korean teachers out there that can teach Korean? No. So there's just a lot of those, you know, interesting little side
Is it
things.
your job, Aaron, to figure out how soon we get our money back? The reason I ask that is because you're saying, hey, we're not going to sit on this for 5 years. We're moving forward. Because of the amount of money, I don't know if Floating Sports ever spent that kind of money for some land for just in the future.
No, but part of this process is to understand so that we can start marketing it. And that's similar to what we talked about on Riverside. Actually, we started doing some plans just internally and had some people approach about some different projects, and we felt like it fit in there. So if you don't have that plan to be able to sell that location, you don't know where you're putting them either. So I think this helps get there. And then from after this point is when you're able to say, we're pushing this portion because we'll be able to get X out of that or what have you. So it helps understand what else you need to put in or not put in to be able to get some generation from this property.
And once again, this is now, hopefully, it's going to be, as we understand, annexed into the city. This will again add to the city's tax base. So I don't think the city's going to want us to sit on it forever. Though, like you say, like the school has had that land out where they built that school for like 20-some years. Yeah, so I don't see us waiting that kind of time.
Yeah. And Lexington took a little bit longer, but there's obviously administration changes, but the idea initially was to just sell it to a developer, and I kept on pushing, like, if you do that, you don't know when something's going to happen. You want some control of what we want out there, meaning median, market rate, type of houses. There's, what would fit in that area, and what do we as a community want in that area versus, we had tons of people knocking down our door to do affordable housing, but that wasn't really what we were trying to achieve. So it does take a little bit of time, but if you don't know what you want, then people take up that property, and then you're not getting what you actually are trying to achieve in that area, so.
So I guess on this step, we want to maybe make it become part of old business, and we'll just keep revisiting it, and, maybe
And
we
if
can
you
do
guys
some
know of any.
research and see what you think.
If you know of places that you really like and know who helped with that process, we can look into theirs. I just knew that those were two that I knew, so, and kind of looked at theirs.
You know what's amazing to me, the most amazing city in Indiana, to me, because I travel a lot, and I have friends everywhere that are developers, Carmel's just crazy. I mean, I have never seen a city, I lived in Carmel for 7 years. That city has changed so much since I lived there in the early 2000s and continuously changed.
Mm-hmm.
And they have villages everywhere. And it's like, wow. I mean, the quality of life there, obviously it's going to be more expensive than here, but we can copy that to a certain point and get people going. The doctor don't have to live in Carmel. They can actually live here in local sport and enjoy that. So it is amazing down there, and I'll look into that down there because I just seen a new one. I was down there Monday, and I was just like, wow, this is amazing.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I took when I was talking to these people, is saying more of that village feel of, like, if we could provide some commercial services or local restaurants, we don't want to plop down McDonald's right there. That's not the intent if we're saying commercial. So to explain what we mean by commercial is going to help people understand what we're trying to achieve. So
The village thing is a big deal right now. I mean, it's,
walkable.
yeah, it's the walkable thing.
Yeah,
It's walk.
and you got the trails down by the river, so I mean, you're,
Yeah.
And you're right there by the trails, you're right there by the park. I mean, all of it is set up to work out that way, and that's quite a bit of acreage to be able to achieve at least a small scale of that there.
all right. So we'll just kind of, I guess, sit on it for a little while, and I'll keep it on the radar, and then we'll decide, you probably want to know, I guess we need to not sit on too long.
Obviously, they're already like, hey, so one gave it to me after your last meeting, but one gave it to me the day before your
Okay.
last meeting. So
Okay.
that one's like, where's it at?
Okay.
I was like, well, they meet monthly.
Would they want to come and present something to us?
I can, if that's something that you guys would like. Okay, I can have them do that.
Since there's such a difference in their pricing too, that, just to
Then if I
say,
come up with some people, just send them to you then?
Yeah. Yep. And I can check in with them too.
we already kind of addressed the whole, parcel stuff, and I'll chase that down. Bill, Aaron, you guys got anything else? All right. Public comments? Any public comments? Dave? Jacob? All right. Any board member comments? Okay. I will just say, we were talking before the meeting about people on social media and stuff like that, and I often see stuff where people seem to be frustrated with how nothing goes on in this community, and I look at this book from today and think, good Lord, this is 1 month.
There's a lot going on. That's
There is a lot going on, and I say, and I just see, I'm old enough to have lived through a lot of stuff, and in the last 3 years, so much has happened with our downtown and other areas, and when, I don't know if people can sit there and say, yeah, nothing's happening, these guys are out of touch or whatever. But anyway, so defense, and so with that being said, I'd like to thank the Aarons and Bills and Jacob and Daves and all these people that are behind the scenes, and Dwayne has to deal with all this paper that flows to him at some point. The fact that, that even though some people are blind to what's going on, there are a lot of people behind the scenes that are doing a lot of paperwork and a lot of investigation and calling phone calls and emails. And thanks to all those people that do that. All right. If nothing else, our next meeting is October 25th at 11 a.m. We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. I hope you get a nap.
The 25th, right?
Yes.
5.